Hello everyone, in this video we'll discuss about iron deficiency anemia. So the topics which we'll be covering, and these will help you to write any answer in your exams also, is the iron metabolism, then etiology, clinical features, lab diagnosis, differential diagnosis, and then lastly treatment part. Now iron metabolism, so very important. It is very important to understand about iron metabolism. This is the overview, then we'll little bit discuss in a detail also. So firstly, in your diet there is some amount of iron present. Now this iron is absorbed in the body from duodenum or jejunum. Okay, duodenum or jejunum, it absorbs the iron from there. Now this is transported, this is the intestinal cell. Out of this the iron is absorbed. Now this binds to transferrin. Transferrin is the transporter. Okay, transferrin will transport the iron to the plasma, in the plasma, and it will take it to the places where it is utilized. Now it will take it to bone marrow, it will take it to muscles and other tissues, mainly the bone marrow, where the RBCs, they will utilize it to form hemoglobin. If the utilization is done and some amount of iron is remaining, it will go into the storage form. Now there are two storage form of iron. One is the ferritin, one is hepcidin. These are two storage form of irons, and it is stored in the macrophages. And then lastly, there's some amount of recycling also, because the RBCs, they die and they also release the iron. So this is the main overview. So you are eating the iron, and then it is absorbed through the duodenum or jejunum, and then via the transferrin in the blood it will go to the bone marrow, where it can be utilized, and some amount of iron that can be stored in the form of ferritin or hepcidin. Now we will discuss little bit in detail about the enterocyte, that is the intestinal epithelial cell. What is happening there? So what is happening in the enterocyte? Firstly, when we are eating the iron, this is your diet. Okay, when you are eating the iron, you eat two types of iron. When you are taking from the animal source, you take Fe2 plus, that is the ferrous form. And when you are taking from the plants, you take mostly Fe3 plus, that is the ferric form. Now in our body, this is the intestinal epithelial cell. In the body, this is the blood. In the blood also Fe3 plus is required. Here also majority Fe3 plus is present. But when it has to enter into the enterocyte and go out of the enterocyte, it has to be in the form of ferrous. Okay, so what will happen is, if your diet has Fe3 plus, it will convert itself into Fe2 plus with the help of gastric acids, and then it will enter into the enterocyte with the help of DMT1, that is divalent metal protein transporter. So this is DMT1, it will help the iron to enter into the cell, then it will go out from the intestinal epithelial cell into the plasma with the help of another transporter, that is ferroportin. So there is one over here, DMT1 over here, one ferroportin over here. Now ferroportin takes out the ferrous form. Okay, now it is converted into ferric form, and then it gets bind to the transferrin, and then this transferrin takes the iron to the bone marrow. Okay, we'll revise it. Now what is happening? Mainly you have dietary iron. Dietary iron is mostly in your ferric form, and in the blood also ferric form is required. However, to transport it through the enterocyte, we need the iron to present in the ferrous form. It will convert itself with the help of gastric acids, enter into the enterocyte with the help of DMT1. It will go out of the enterocyte with the help of ferroportin, and this ferroportin, when the iron comes out, it again converts itself into ferric form, binds to the transferrin, and then it can be taken into use. This is the main iron metabolism. Another important concept to understand is the role of hepcidin. Okay, what is hepcidin? Hepcidin is a molecule which is secreted, made by liver. Okay, this controls the iron availability. Okay, in our body iron is available. If in the diet it is available, in the enterocyte it is available, but it is present, iron is present, but to make it available, what is responsible? Hepcidin. It is also known as the iron gatekeeper. So what does it do? Whenever the iron is higher, okay, whenever the hepcidin is higher, hepcidin increases, it blocks the ferroportin. Okay, it will block the ferroportin. It will not allow the iron to go out of the enterocyte. Therefore the iron will get stored in the enterocyte itself. So the hepcidin main role is in the blockage or down regulation of ferroportin. So hepcidin, what does it do? It closes the ferroportin when the iron needs to be kept out of the circulation. High hepcidin get it leads to iron entrapment within the enterocytes or the macrophages. That means there is low circulating iron, and low hepcidin, iron is released into the plasma, therefore it increases the iron availability. So hepcidin is important in that way. Now hepcidin, apart from the physiological conditions, it can get very high in your anemia of chronic disorders. Okay, so if you have inflammation, long term inflammation in the body, so there also hepcidin gets affected. So what happens if there is chronic inflammation in the body? The patient is of a chronic disease, chronic tuberculosis, chronic rheumatoid arthritis. So these type of chronic diseases are there. They secrete some interleukins which act upon the liver to release hepcidin. Now hepcidin will do its own work. What is hepcidin doing? Hepcidin will cause internalization and blockage of ferroportin. Now as we know, ferroportin, if it is blocked, what will it will not allow the iron to go out. So the iron export from the enterocyte into the plasma, it is diminished, and the iron will remain in the macrophages, in the enterocytes. Therefore iron stores will be present, okay, but iron in the plasma will be low. Now what are the factors which affect the iron absorption? Very easy. There are some factors which increase the iron absorption, few factors which decrease the iron absorption. The factors which increase the iron absorption, they are vitamin C, heme iron, that is iron in the form of ferrous. Then you have acidic environment. If iron deficiency is there, also the body tries to replenish it, therefore increasing the iron absorption. Increase erythropoietic demand and low hepcidin, these are the reasons for increasing the iron absorption. Now factors decreasing the iron absorption: phytates. So if you are taking iron along with tea, coffee, some beans, so phytates are present. Tannins are there, so these are present in the these things, so iron absorption will decrease. Calcium also decreases the iron absorption. High hepcidin also decreases it. So inflammation or chronic diseases lead to high hepcidin, decreasing the iron absorption. Lastly, antacids and acid suppression also decreases the iron absorption. Why? Because there is some amount of acidity required for iron to change itself into the ferric to ferrous form. Okay. Now what is the etiology behind iron deficiency anemia? So iron deficiency anemia can be due to blood loss. Okay, if the blood is getting lost from the body with the help of menorrhagia, GI bleeding, hookworm infestation, then if there is increased requirement in the body, especially if the patient is pregnant, in adolescence it is required, in infancy it is required, decreased intake, patient has a bad diet, okay, then malabsorption. Lastly, if the patient intestine has some problem, that the iron is not getting absorbed properly. These are all the etiology behind iron deficiency anemia. What is the symptoms with the patient will come? Patient will come with the vague symptoms of weakness, fatigue, sometimes dyspnea, palpitations. Patient is walking but gets breathlessness. So these are the symptoms. What are the signs which you will note in a patient? You will note pallor, then glossitis can be there, okay, especially you can see atrophic glossitis is there. Then in the nails you can note koilonychia. Koilonychia is spoon shaped nails. You have concavity to the nails. Then angular cheilitis can be there. Can be some amount of dryness along the angles of the mouth. These are the signs of iron deficiency anemia, mostly present in severe type of anemia. Then there is a syndrome associated with iron deficiency anemia. It is known as Plummer-Vinson syndrome. This occurs with chronic iron deficiency anemia. So what is the triad? It is a type of triad. So patient here has in iron deficiency anemia, patient has esophageal webs, and patient also has dysphagia. Okay, so because of there is esophageal webs, because of esophageal webs there is dysphagia, and because the patient is not able to absorb, there is iron deficiency anemia also. So this is a syndrome known as Plummer-Vinson syndrome. Now going to the how you will diagnose a case of iron deficiency anemia. So whenever you are attempting any anemia, you have to write about the PBF findings, then bone marrow findings. There iron studies are required because iron deficiency anemia. So in PBF findings, what is the hemoglobin, how are the RBCs, WBCs, platelets, okay, any indices changing. So these are important. So going to firstly the CBC. So what will happen to hemoglobin? It will be decreased. What will be PCV? These are the indices now. Okay, PCV it will be decreased, MCV will be low. It is a type of microcytic hypochromic anemia. Okay, iron deficiency is a type of microcytic hypochromic anemia. That means the cell size is also low, the chromia is also low. So both MCV, that is denoting the size, is low, and MCH denoting the hypochromia, that is low. Then RDW is higher. There is some amount of anisopoikilocytosis. Reticulocyte count will be lower because body is not able to make more RBCs. Platelet count can be higher, especially with the hemorrhage. So here you can see a picture. This is a PBF picture of iron deficiency anemia. Firstly, you will have microcytes, that is the RBCs, they will be smaller than the normal RBCs. How to compare? You will be comparing this with the lymphocyte. A small lymphocyte nucleus is almost the size of RBC. If it is lower than that, that is microcytic RBC. Then hypochromia will be there. There is a central pallor present in the normal RBC, but here the pallor will increase. Then anisocytosis will be there. There will be variation in the size. Then pencil cells, cigar cells, these can be seen in the iron deficiency anemia. So these are the peripheral blood findings. So what are those? Microcytic hypochromic anemia, anisopoikilocytosis, pencil cells, increased central pallor, or sometimes ring cells can also be seen. Ring cells are, they just have rim of chromia left. Okay, the slight color is left, whole of the RBCs is empty from any color of hemoglobin. So this is the PBF findings. Going to the bone marrow findings. Now if there is hemoglobin is low, the bone marrow tries to produce more RBCs. So the cellularity is mostly hypercellular. Me ratio decreases because erythroid hyperplasia is there. Okay, RBCs, they try to replenish itself. So erythroid hyperplasia can be there. In the erythropoiesis, you have to remember it, there is something known as micronormoblast. So here the micronormoblast is there. So iron is present in the cytoplasm, in the RBCs, okay, in also the erythroid series. So the cytoplasm lags behind the nuclear maturation because for iron, for the cytoplasm, iron is required. Nucleus, we require vitamin B12. So in B12 deficiency, nucleus will lag behind. But in case of iron deficiency anemia, your cytoplasm will lag behind the nuclear maturation, and incomplete hemoglobinization will be seen in the late normoblasts. And these normoblasts, they will be not normal looking, they will be micronormoblasts. Okay, if you see the picture, I'll show you. Going firstly to the myelopoiesis, that is WBCs, normal, megakaryopoiesis, normal. If you do iron stain, that is the Pearl's Persian blue stain, this is the iron stain, it will show absent iron stores in case of iron deficiency anemia. So if you see over here, These are the micronormoblast. Okay, so which type of maturation is there? There is micronormoblastic maturation in case of iron deficiency anemia, and this is the pearl stain. That is, this is the pearl stain. Pearl stain is for iron stores. Okay, it tells about the hemosiderin present inside the bone marrow. So you can see there are few specks of bluish color thing. This actually, this picture is a normal picture, but in case of iron deficiency anemia there will be no blue specks present. Now going to lastly the biochemical findings. Okay, now biochemical findings, the serum iron will be low. Serum ferritin, this is the storage form of iron. If in a body there is serum iron is low, serum ferritin stores are also depleted, so it is iron deficiency anemia. Both the circulating form is low and also the ferritin, the storage form, is also low. Then TIBC will be increased. What is TIBC? That is total iron binding capacity. Now if the iron is low, the capacity is there to bind the iron, the transferrin. So if this is a transferrin molecule, so transferrin can bind iron. Okay, but if iron is not available, so the transferrin is empty over here, so there is capacity of iron, of transferrin to bind, so capacity will be increased. Okay, it wants to bind to iron, so total iron binding capacity increases, but transferrin saturation, because it is not being saturated over here, it will decrease. So transferrin saturation decreases and total iron binding capacity, it increases. Now it is important, if you see all the videos of iron deficiency anemia, thalassemia, sideroblastic anemia, this table will be very easy for you. So what is the difference between all this should be known. Why? Because for a differential diagnosis of microcytic hypochromic anemia, okay, you have SITA. SITA means sideroblastic anemia, iron deficiency anemia, thalassemia, and anemia of chronic disorders. These are the four differential diagnoses of a microcytic hypochromic picture. So to differentiate these things, we need some tests. So what are the differentiating forms? So in iron deficiency anemia, if you see, MCV will be low, MCV will be low in all the cases. Serum ferritin. Now serum ferritin is low only in case of iron deficiency anemia. This is very important. So serum ferritin is a differentiating marker. So in anemia of chronic disorder also it will increase, in thalassemia also it will increase, in sideroblastic also it will increase. Serum iron will fall in case of your in iron deficiency anemia. It also will also form in the case of anemia of chronic disorder, because hepcidin is not allowing the iron to go into the plasma. It is present in the stores, but it is not allowing it to go into the pool. Then TIBC will be increased in the case of iron deficiency anemia. Rest all it will slightly be normal or decreased. Transferrin saturation again will fall in case of iron deficiency anemia. It will again fall in the case of anemia of chronic disorder, because no iron is there for the transferrin to bind. Electrophoresis is not diagnostic in the case of thalassemia. So these are the differentiating marker, out of which you should know that serum ferritin is a very important marker to differentiate between the all of these. You will get a better hold of it when you will see each, you will see videos of each anemia, and then you will be able to make the differences. Then what is the treatment part? We want to treat the cause. Before giving the iron supplementation, we need to treat the cause. If the patient has hookworm infestation, we need to treat that. Iron supplements can be given, oral or parenteral, both are available. And how response to treatment is checked. Okay, when we have given iron to the patient, after around a week we can call the patient back and we can do a reticulocyte count. So if the reticulocyte count increases, that means the body is responding to the treatment. So this was all about iron deficiency anemia. You can ask your queries in the comment box. I think you must have understood the topic. Thank you very much.